Welcome to the podcast Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook, where we will discuss the latest and most relevant business strategies to help you do one thing extremely well: sell more homes. We'll discuss everything from business planning to lead generation and conversion to past client customer service and everything in between. Join us for authentic conversations and nuts and bolts takeaways you can implement into your business today. And now, Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another day and another episode of Selling Real Estate with Kelly Cook. And Kelly, how are you today? Having a wonderful, fantastic, marvelous day?
Yeah, you gave me the easy one because you know what the answer is going to be. But no, it's going well. This is good. This is a challenging market we're in, right? This is where we're separating the men from the boys and the women from the girls, right?
Yeah.
So this is going to be interesting to see what happens over the next 6 months. And I think a lot of people out there that are watching, taking time to watch or listen to podcasts like this are going to be very happy with themselves because you have a chance to separate yourself, right? The separation season.
Come out on top.
Yeah. It's coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And which traditionally, and I know in Phoenix, it is a little bit different because you guys have warm weather. You're not as affected by the seasons as kind of the rest of the country is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I know that summer is usually like the spring market, summer market. That's usually when things are hot, right? Like you don't have to worry so much. I feel like it's like, yep, people are moving. That is what is going to happen. And this summer in particular, this spring summer market is kind of like we saw last year, right? Where it's a little bit more difficult. It's not really that easier season for a lot of people. Yes, of course, more homes are still probably going to, be trading hands over this season, but it's not as easy, quote unquote, as it used to be, right? Or it's just harder to find those. So absolutely kind of educating yourself, making sure that you implement things that you educate yourself with is definitely going to help you out in the long run this summer, because we're still kind of shouldering that tougher market that we've seen for a couple of, at this point, like a couple of years now, really.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So today, really kind of piggybacking off of that and really going back to the heart of what this episode or what this podcast is about, selling real estate with Kelly Cook. That's what we're going to talk about today. We've done episodes in the past about listing, right? How to have a great listing presentation, how to win the listing. That's part of the battle, right? But the other half of it is to actually get you paid. You have to sell the house as well.
Yeah.
So, and which right now, again, getting the listing is difficult right now. And then getting the listing to sell is difficult right now as well. So we want to focus today on the latter half of that, actually getting it to closing so you can get paid. Kelly, take it away. How are we going to do that?
Yeah. Okay. This is an interesting one because I think a lot of people right now are in that mode because we're seeing with other agents that we mastermind in groups across the country that this is happening, and it's actually oddly enough happening here too as well. I think you're starting to see it naturally to an extent because it's now people starting to move because of seasons and schools and things of that nature. So I think you're starting to see a lot more listing inventory now on the market, or at least in the pockets of agents getting ready to come on the market. And you're still not seeing a huge influx of demand, right? So this is great because you want to build up listing inventory to be able to have a pipeline. But like you said, Elizabeth, you got to be able to sell them. You want to be able to sell your listings for a lot of different reasons, right? But primarily because you need to make money to live, right? This is your career. It's your bread and butter. So we're going to talk a little bit about that right now. Now, this is by no stretch of imagination all encompassing. There are a lot of things you can do. We're going to talk about some topics here, some specific. I'm going to give one example too, and hopefully this can relate because we'll just dive into that example here in just a second. First and foremost, always over deliver on whatever it is that you promise, right? It's the old saying is under promise, over deliver. You definitely want to do that when it comes to your listing. So how do you do that? Well, in your listing presentation, you want to show proof over promise. But this is not about the listing presentation and how to best obtain the listing. You already have it. Now, how do you sell it? I think one of those things you got to do is you have to make sure you're clear on, number one, your pricing strategy. We have to start with pricing. I know some of y'all want to start with marketing, which is important, but you have to start with pricing because the strategy, notice I said price, I said pricing strategy, not price, pricing strategy, not price. And so we're big on three things. Okay. We're big on three different pricing strategies that we talk about up front. Therefore, we are going to continue to relay that to our clients. We are going to separate the actual sales price, okay, from, or market value, otherwise known as, from the list price. And so we talk about listing price strategy, not a listing price, because homes have a list price, of course they do, but they don't have a price or a value until someone actually agrees to pay that number, whatever it is. Then it has a value. Then it has a market value number. Okay, so until then, there's no number. So the three strategies that we love, which we received from one of my main men here at Real, is the bottom line is event pricing strategy. Okay, the middle one is going to be perceived market value strategy, and the top one is going to be the aspirational pricing strategy. Okay, now picture a continuum of 1 to 10, and I always like to give this visual to a client when I'm talking to them, right? But the 1 through 10, and 10 being the highest, and 1 being the lowest, but you cannot argue that's the market value range. 3 different appraisers came to your house, they're going to put it within that range: high, low, mid, medium. Okay. So when you talk to a customer, a client, you're always talking about those three strategies, or you should be. And then if the list price is, or selling the property is the event, the list price is the invitation. How many people do you want to show up? How many people do you want to have come to the party? Well, if you're at the event price strategy, a lot more people are going to come than if you're at the aspirational pricing strategy at the top. Okay. So when the house is on the market, hopefully you've established the price. Hopefully you've established the strategy, not the actual number as that being what it is. And therefore, whenever you come to the point where you may need an adjustment, they don't feel like you just took money out of their pocket. Because if you don't separate that, if you don't separate the price from the strategy, then they'll think you're taking money out of their pocket. And even if you sell the property, they may have a little bit of a bad taste in their mouth. So you have to really do that. Little things matter. Okay. Now we have a honeymoon period. We call it a honeymoon period in the first 3 weeks that we launch a property to the market. Now, why 3 weeks? Because it's proven that the most traffic you're ever going to have for the life of the listing when it's on the market is in the first 3 weeks. So we are going to blitz the market with all the marketing we do. Okay. And that's for another podcast to talk about our specific marketing strategy, because everyone has different strategies, but there's a few things that you obviously have to do. Please have high definition photos. Okay. And please take aerial photos. Okay. It's very important.
Don't go in with your cell phone.
No, I mean, this is basics. I know, guys, but I just had to say it. I had to say it. Okay, just don't do that. I still see that today. I looked at a property today that had iPhone photos, and it's over $1 million. I mean, it's unbelievable how this is. Yeah, it's crazy. So, but anyways, and also too, what we do is we always get approval from all of our clients before our property goes on the market. Right before we change something, they have approval, because why? We don't ever want to just put some out there and then have their friend tell them, "Hey, did you see your house? Why does picture number 28 look like that?" Or whatever it is, right? They're like all pissed off. Wow, I can't believe you put that. Well, we didn't know. We thought maybe you liked picture number 28 because you like that view of the whatever it is, right? So we always have them approve. That's a big thing. Approve before they go on the market so that they are the ones who actually put their stamp of approval on it. Okay. They are bought in now with you. And then, of course, you have to then now show the proof of a promise after the house is on the market. So we have a system in which we are going to update them not once, but twice a week. Okay. Every Wednesday, every Friday, they are getting a piece of communication from us regarding their house. The Wednesday one is going to be a traffic report explaining all the details of what's going on in their market, the feedback showing a lot of stuff, as well as consumer portal activity, and who's favoriting things, who's liking things. Okay. And then we are also going to give that back to them every single Wednesday. Now, every single Friday, we are going to call them. Yeah, call. What a concept, right? We're going to call them and we are going to ask them if they have anything. Now, I had a big aha a long time ago in my career, Elizabeth. There was this literally happened. True story. This is not the main story I'm going to tell you, but I just thought of this. This happened. I still remember the client's name. It's probably about 10 years ago, and everything was going great. We had their house under contract for a great number pretty quick, and everything's going fantastic. We made it through the appraisal process. We made it through the inspection process and the underwriting in terms of the loan contingency process. We're just waiting for underwriting approval to go to title and go to closing. Well, the time we had all the contingencies lifted until the time we closed was about a period of 2.5 to 3 weeks. I'll never forget this. And so, what else is there for an agent to do? Really nothing. At this point, the underwriter would have to simply get
Sit
the
and
final
wait.
approval out, and so lender's doing their thing, but we're sitting and waiting. So we're selling the house, and I'm sitting there thinking this is going great. They were saying, "Oh my goodness, thank you so much. They're so grateful, and they're nice people." And then all of a sudden, probably about I don't know, a week from closing, maybe not even, maybe about like I think maybe like 3 days, because we're getting ready to schedule the final walkthrough, right? But I hadn't called them for a while because there's nothing to do, and they love me, and everything's funky dory. Well, I call them up. And he goes, Kelly, what's going on? And I'm like, what do you mean what's going on? Like, we're getting ready to close here, as you know, in whatever, 6 days or 5 days, whatever it was. And we're gonna set up a final walkthrough here pretty soon. And does that answer your question? No. No. I mean, do you realize I only sell a house? I don't know. Last time I sold a house was 12 years ago. Like, I
This is
don't
not
know
the
what's going
everyday
on.
occurrence. Yeah.
Right. I don't know. Like, I haven't heard from you or your office for 2 weeks or whatever it was, right? Which, by the way, for some agents, 2 weeks is actually frequent, which is what we
Yeah.
want to change in the industry, right? It should not be 2 weeks. It might have been 2.5 weeks. I don't know, but it was a while. And he's like, I go, yeah, but I go, his name is Jeff. I go, yeah, but Jeff, everything's okay. Everything's good. He's like, well, I didn't know everything's good. I mean, I'm sitting here wondering, ask my wife, when am I going to hear from Kelly? Because I haven't heard from him meanwhile, before this, I was hearing from him or his office like once every like 3 or 4 days, right? About things that are going on and whatever's happening. He goes, so you're acting as if I understand that everything's okay when I don't know. All I know is I didn't hear from you for, a period of time when I'd hear from you all the time before that. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And he's like, and so I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, Jeff. I didn't realize, that everything's good, man. And so we set the walkthrough up and we're going to close, but you could tell he wasn't the same. He was my biggest fan prior to this. And now all of a sudden he was kind of cold to me a little bit. Right. So anyways, it went off with a hitch. Without a hitch, we still closed on time, and everything was fantastic. But then I talked to him afterwards, and he was just like, he's like, he brought it up again. He's like, you have to understand, people don't sell houses every year or two or whatever, right? 7 years, 10 years, 12 years. And he's like, so you have to hold their hand. That's why we hired you. And I was sitting there going, oh man, I knew at that point I lost this guy. Like, and he's like, and I knew they were going into a rental. They're going to a rental for temporary. They weren't sure what they wanted to buy. And sure enough, about a year later, I tried to keep in touch with them, but they didn't answer my phone call. I would text them, they wouldn't text back, or if they did text back, it was like super short, like, thanks or whatever. And sure enough, because this is what realtors do. We watch tax records, and sure enough, they went and bought a new build without me. What, a year and a half later, and all because I simply didn't call to say how you doing, right? And literally, guys, I mean, it was a 5+ customer experience up to that point. Like he was like, "Oh man, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. We good."
And you were in a lot of communication previous to that. It was that's how you knew he was happy, and he was happy because he was hearing from you.
That's right. So ever since then, I made it a point. We made a system, right, where someone from the office, myself, our transaction manager, listing coordinator, whoever it may be, is going to call them once a week, and we are going to ask them how they're doing. Now, when we ask them how they're doing, we're not going to ask it like that, because I learned through this as well. I learned when you ask somebody how they're doing, if they're a non-confrontational type of person and things are like going pretty well, but not great, they'll say what? Good.
Doing good.
Going good. Yeah, it's okay. Good. Yeah. And then if it's not you, you might have some spiny sense and be like, well, that doesn't seem, but maybe it's not you calling. Maybe one of your staff members is calling or whatever, right?
And they don't know this person.
They don't know the person. They're like, oh, okay, great. Well, couldn't find out, things weren't great. And then maybe 2 weeks later, you get a bad email saying, hey, you know what? I think we may want to cancel or whatever, right? Because for something that you weren't even aware that you were doing wrong, right? And so that these things happen. They're few and far between in my 19-year career, but they do happen from time to time, and they have in the past. We have eliminated that out of our business over the past 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it's been. So we call, and when we call, we ask the question: how would you rate our job performance over the past week? On a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate our job performance over this past week? And nothing satisfies but a 5. Okay, and so if they say 4, 3.5, whatever, then we have to ask them, why? What can we do to make it a 5 next week? And sometimes the answers are quirky, guys. Like there's like, we'll just sell my house. And then, but you know what? And that's an answer. it's nothing we can control because let's say we're doing everything we can in terms of marketing, in terms of the showability of the property and blah, 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 and the market positioning, all this stuff. But price is just overpriced, let's say, right? Because they chose the aspirational pricing strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're in control of that. They don't want to come down. They're not going to come down. And that's what it's going to be. They're the boss. And we let them know that. But the reality is like it's at least opens the door for another conversation about price and that we are controlling all that we can. But we cannot dunk their head in the water and make them drink it.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do that. And so then that opens the door for a whole other conversation in which if it's a staff member, they say, you know what, you're right, Mr. Smith. We apologize about that. We're trying everything we can. I mean, it's the same marketing plan that worked for the last 210 homes that we sold over the past 9 months at this point. So we would love to get this done for you. Is there anything else that you would like to see us do that we aren't currently doing? And let the silence do the heavy lifting, because 99 times out of 100, it's going to be nothing because there is nothing. They're just frustrated their house isn't sold.
Yeah.
They're looking for someone to blame, and they can't blame the market because the market doesn't talk back to them. The market doesn't have a heartbeat. Market doesn't smile or look at them funny or whatever, right? So and then hey, let me have my agent give you a call, agent whoever it is, right, list agent, and we can talk more about what the pricing strategy about this, blah 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 blah. And so it's an open door conversation. Now with that, we're able to then parlay that if we get a 5 on the scale of 1 to 5 into a potential 5-star review, and then we're able to parlay that further into a potential referral. And so it works out great, guys. So I would recommend to please have a weekly communication cadence to help sell your property. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, last thing I'll leave you with. This is an example. This is a good one, guys, because this directly happened about 3 weeks ago. And the market we're in today is the same market we're in, at least in Phoenix, 3 weeks ago, easily. And so we had property in the market for, we were at 1.595, almost 1.6 million, probably in the market for sale. There was also around the same time we put our house on the market, probably because of the whole school thing. These are the reason why actually these clients are moving to a different house locally here. But the reason why they put the house on the market is probably because of school. And because at the same time we put the market within 2 weeks, there was literally on the same street and a street over another 5 listings that came on the market. And they're all somewhat similar homes. These are not like super big custom, crazy, wild. These are, for the most part, around the same type of size and lot size and, this kind of thing.
Style, yeah.
Style. So the prices are all plus or minus, in the ballpark, right? Based upon if they've been remodeled or not or whatever. And so, man, we're doing all we can, right? The house is on the market for about 35, 40 days. Now, that's not that long. Even in Phoenix, it's not that long. But it's still, some people are like, man, my house not selling, right? So we're doing all we can. Well, come to find out, or not come to find out, but we did procure a buyer. We got an offer, okay? Now, here's where you can really play a role as a real estate advisor to your client, okay, and help get your property sold. The client's obviously a very smart person. I had a chance to talk to him. We had a long conversation, but I was advising him because that's my role. That's what he's paying me to do, even though he might be a very smart individual, right? Which he is. So in this situation, there were 5 other properties that were around the same ballpark that also had not moved. They were not under contract. They were still on the market around the same time, days on market that are properties on the market. But we had this offer. Now, the chances are that if we don't make this offer work, because we were not the cheapest house out of the 6 in this little tiny micro neighborhood. We were not. In fact, we were the second to the most expensive, I believe. But chances are that if we don't get this to work, they're going to potentially offer on something else nearby.
Yep. Yes. Go right down the street, literally.
Because they like the area. Exactly. So I had a long conversation with our client. And one thing I had an opinion. I went on a limb, to an extent, I guess, right? And I just said, "Hey, Doug, can I have a conversation with you and talk about supply demand and what's happening right now?" And he said, "Sure, yeah." I go, "So we have this offer, and I know, guys, the offer came in. We're at 1.595. The offer came in at 1.475. So we're like 125,000 off, or so 120,000 off. Okay, which is a good amount, right?" And so I said, here's a conversation. Now we talked pricing strategy when we first listed, and he went to 1.595. I was at 1.55 to list, but I was at a number I felt market value was around 1.5. Okay, so I go. Here's the deal, Doug. I said the same thing. If we don't make this work, they're probably gonna go somewhere else. As you saw, everything else is stale. Okay, and there's been a couple price drops with our competition. if we continue to stay on the market heading into summer, now June's usually pretty good in Phoenix, as it is in most places across America, right? But in Phoenix, it's kind of different because in most places across America, July is probably still a pretty decent month because school starts maybe 1st of August or late August, right? And it's not like 114 degrees in most places in the country except in Phoenix. So after June, and people are like pretty much like, hey, I got my house figured out situation going on. Then like after July 4th, it's a lot of people leave, right? So it's different. It slows down. And so if this thing keeps going, I had a conversation about that. And if someone else, they want to buy in this neighborhood, there's not many other ones that are, indicating by the fact that our competition is still on the market. And by the way, if we come a little lower on a price, we will be the first domino to fall. Now watch what happens when the first of our cluster of 6 homes in this neighborhood falls. Then number 2 is going to fall, and number 3 is going to fall, but not necessarily fall in a good way. They're going to fall by either A, stay in the market way too long and not like, and I still call that a fall because they might not even sell, or they're going to fall because they will now drop their price to try to be more competitive to what we do. We're the first one to react. We're in this good position where if we're the first one to react, we will set the market in terms of the trajectory for the next 3 months. And if we don't, we could be sitting here talking again in September, potentially, right? I mean, that's a little dramatic, right? But it's possible, right?
Yeah.
And so because he had a certain number, he wouldn't go below, right? And that's the reality. And so he was able to understand that he took basically make the offer work, right? The people came up above 1.5 and then some change, and so further he came down little bit ways, and we made a deal work. And guys, it's awesome because now you acted as an advisor, knowing the market dynamics and putting yourself out there on a limb because, guys, I know how it works. Some agents are afraid to say, you know what? Even if this buyer doesn't come a nickel over 1520 or whatever the magic number is, like if they don't, it's still a good offer. You should strongly consider it. Not because I want to make a sell, but because we had this conversation up front about the strategy of the pricing, right? And so now, because we already set the table, I was able to be more confident in saying that, knowing that he wouldn't just get upset and say, you know what, you just have to make a quick buck. I want to cancel and be done with you.
Yeah.
Which
Trying to
some
take
people
money out of my pocket.
That's
like
right.
You said, yeah.
That's right. And so that stuff all matters. And so I had a conversation about supply and demand, about how the market dynamics work. And that is, I firmly believe that's what's going to happen as soon as ours records. Okay. Because right now, no one has because our property hasn't closed yet. We still have another 2 weeks of closing until it closes. And I guarantee you, when that number hits, watch the domino effect happen for the next 2 months with all the other 5 properties.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm telling you. And by the way,
and we'll be lower than what you got, likely. You know what I mean?
Yep, that's right. And by the way, Elizabeth, here's what I know it to be true, because we just got a call off the sign of that property yesterday from one of the other 5 properties that are currently listed, saying, but they were very curious. How'd you, basic questions like this: how'd you do it? What's going on? What's wrong with my property? Da da da. And now they're doubting their own agent, even though their agent might be doing a good job. I don't know. But now that's the first start, because now that person,
especially when you're in that small area like that,
that's
where
right.
It's all
That's right.
very comparable.
That's right. So it won't be that like that every time. But the point is, if you set up the strategy on pricing ahead of time, you're setting the table for a tougher conversation that you're going to have potentially in this type of market a little bit later down the road.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one thing that you've said before that kind of rings true in this situation and in situations that are going to happen is that you are paid to have an opinion. Like you are, yes, at the end of the day, they're the boss. It's their decision, but you are paid for your expertise, just like Kelly had these conversations saying, hey, this is what's going to happen or what could potentially happen based upon my experience. This is why you hired me, is to give you this advice. And so you are paid to have an opinion. You have to have that. And having those conversations up front makes all of that a lot easier down the road if needed, like Kelly said.
I love that. I love that. You are paid to have an opinion because you are a professional, and professionals have opinions that are not just rooted in theory, but rooted in all their knowledge, their expertise, and market experience over the time that they've been working as that professional.
That's likely why you got the listing in the first place, right?
There
It's
you
because
go.
of that.
That's right.
So fantastic. Well, like we said, we've talked a lot about how to get the listing. That is really only half the battle, right? There's the part of getting it to closing, which in some markets is easy. I know a couple of years ago, like, you stuck a for sale sign in the yard. I know that's not all that you were doing behind the scenes, but it almost could have been, right? Like people were lining up at the door. Now, to get them the best money and all of that stuff, of course, had to have experience. But right now, it's time to show that that opinion and that advice and your value as an agent to your client, to get their home not only listed, but over the finish line and get it sold.
Right.
So fantastic. Well, we will have more good stuff for you guys coming up in the next couple of weeks here. But until then, Kelly, if anybody has any questions or wants to talk to you about any of your strategies, maybe more about those pricing strategies or anything like that, where can they reach you?
Yeah, Instagram, please, at Kelly Cook Homes, or just text me 480-227-2028.
Yeah, absolutely. And as always, if you are looking to, I don't think I've mentioned this one in a while, so bringing this back to your attention, if you're looking to start a real estate team, build a real estate team this year or anytime in the future, I recommend that you go to buildyourrealestateteam.com and kind of read over Kelly's tips and tricks, his way to do it that he wishes that he had done when he started. Obviously, everything's worked out pretty well for him now, but it was kind of a battle. You wish you had a guide, a little guide like that to get you going, because you went
I just
through
talked about some of the mistakes I made, right? That I wish I
right,
would learned
exactly.
from earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So buildyourrealestateteam.com. And other than that, stay tuned, guys. We'll have more good stuff coming for you, because you want to continue to educate yourself and rise above after this summer winds down. You want to be on the top of the separation that's coming, right?
That's right.
Absolutely.
Separation season is coming.
Yep. We'll see you guys next week.
All
Bye,
right,
Kelly.
see you guys.